Hey, what's going on, sports fans? What's going on, Who Dat Nation? It is yours truly, TJ Jones. Thank you so much for tuning in. We're going to be talking Saints football and NFL here on both the Gumbo Pod and the State of the Saints podcast on today. So, that's the reason I didn't play the intro, because this episode is going to go to both platforms. And I want to let everybody know, for those that may not have been checking out the Gumbo Pot videos, probably don't want to hear what I got to say about the NFL. That's cool. That's cool. But those that are interested and want to hear, about other NFL teams, a different perspective, check out the Gumbo Pot Sports Podcast channel. Because starting in February, I no longer will be streaming any videos that's related to the Gumbo Pot, or NFL, college football. So if you are interested in that type of stuff, subscribe to the Gumbo Pod Sports Podcast channel. Shouts out to everybody that has already. I'm just I'm just getting little church announcements out of the way as people file in. Also, I want to thank everybody for checking out the interview that I did with Matt Moscona on yesterday. Shouts out to Matt, great guy. That was actually his second time being on the show, but it was kind of him to take time out of his busy schedule, all the things that he does at ESPN out there in Baton Rouge, to give me a few minutes. And I was trying to actually cut it short, like, because I know he's a busy guy, but he started to go a little longer. So I was like, man, this is pretty dope right here, man. So shouts out to Matt, for being very candid with his time. But also, I want to say to everybody, next week, I will be at the Senior Bowl. Shouts out to Dolph. He reached out to me. Dolph will be out there as well. For those that know Dolph, in his YouTube channel, he will be out there, man. So looking forward to meeting individuals. And if you so happen to be in Mobile area and you're going to the Senior Bowl to check out the practices, feel free to, come on over, man, because it's always a pleasure to meet people that support this podcast, man. Look, I ain't one of them people that don't appreciate the individuals that made this podcast what it is, and believed in a person like me to make this thing happen. So thank you all so much. But let's go ahead and get into it, man. There's some major shakeups going on around the NFL. I mean, of course, we know about Jim Harbaugh signing as the new head coach with the Los Angeles Chargers, which is a really huge move. We know about Brian Callahan's becoming a head coach, the former offensive coordinator of the Cincinnati Bengals. He is now the head coach of the Tennessee Titans. And just recently, something that's going to affect the NFC South, former offensive coordinator of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this past year, Dave Canales, will now be the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. Now, this story probably came out, if you're actually watching this, around 12 noon Eastern time, 11 o'clock, 11:40 to be exact, Central time. This story just came out. And Dave Canales, we know he was only with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for 1 year. I think he spent a little bit of time with the Seattle Seahawks. And he was very, very instrumental in turning Baker Mayfield's career around. You got to give him credit where credit is indeed due. And I think what the Carolina Panthers saw in him is a guy who actually did just that. And if you look at the way that the Carolina Panthers are constructed, with Bryce Young, the number 1 overall pick last year, and the struggles that he had, it makes perfect sense. And of course, adding another coach to this division, it asks the question, or it makes you ask the question rather, how does this affect the New Orleans Saints? And we know that the New Orleans Saints right now, they're looking for a new offensive coordinator and looking for a new signal caller, not a new signal caller, but a person to help the signal caller and come up with something that's innovative and fresh and new and things that we're not used to seeing as Saints fans for some of us that are out here right now that root for the team. It is going to affect them because, I mean, I don't know what type of head coach Dave Canales is, but I know that he can call some offense. And I know for a fact that it's going to be it's going to be a little bit different. And you can say that the Saints still have an advantage here because, they had opportunity to actually go up against Dave Canales' offense. But I look at the Carolina Panthers. I think that they got an owner that gets in their way. He wants to be at the forefront. He's not the type of guy that's patient. So I'm just wondering, like, if Dave Canales doesn't hit it out the park right now, how patient will David Tepper be? So, I mean, only time will tell. And also, how would this affect the New Orleans Saints? I mean, we know the Carolina Panthers have been struggling, and the New Orleans Saints have been honestly been eating off the Carolina Panthers for the last few years. You know, I think they won 3 out of the last 4 games that they played against. Well, no, they swept them this year, right? And even though Matt Rule got fired, I forgot about that. Even though Matt Rule got fired, and also the fact that Sam Darnold put up 43 yards, they still managed to beat the New Orleans Saints in Dennis Allen's first year. But they weren't as terrible to a point where they actually lost to the Carolina Panthers this year. But it could affect them. I mean, the Saints swept the Carolina Panthers, and you know for a fact that the Carolina Panthers are going to want to emerge as being one of the best teams in the NFC South. So that is why it's extremely important for the New Orleans Saints to find the right offensive coordinator and not going back and digging in the crates and reeking of desperation by going out here getting some old fart that's been around the league that's, offense pretty much then passed them by and doesn't really have a pulse on the offense, doesn't really have a pulse on modern day NFL offense. But, I mean, when you look at the New Orleans Saints and what they're actually going after, you see them going after Zach Robinson. You see them, going after, guys like that, young, innovative guys. It gives you a little bit of hope to feel that the New Orleans Saints understand that they need to go in a different direction. I look at when the New Orleans Saints were struggling defensively under Sean Payton, and we were talking about their defenses. They couldn't stop nobody. The offense basically had to be perfect. They had to score almost every drive. And then, Sean Payton just decided that he had enough. Like all those guys that were there with him, all those different coordinators, the Joe Vitts of the world, he decided to go ahead and let those guys go. And he started to bring in Rob Ryan, even though it ended up being a mistake. But he started to change around his defensive staff to make sure that the defense was much better. And, the Saints have to do the same thing. Like, you cannot get stuck in neutral and expect for things to change. You got to find somebody out here that is going to be willing to embrace this team, that is going to be willing to look at this uphill battle and they're in that chance that you could possibly be looking for another job. But you have the confidence in yourself that you can do such a formidable job that things can happen for you, that you can get head coaching opportunities. So whoever it is, they gotta bring something in that's a little bit different to utilize some of these playmakers, to open up the playbook. And I just think that if the Saints do that, based on the talent of Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara, like, you can really do some amazing things offensively if you find the right guy. And you're going to have to, because once again, if you look around the National Football League, the Saints aren't just playing the NFC South, they're playing the AFC West. And that is starting to emerge as one of the best coaching, divisions in all of football. I mean, you got Andy Reid, you got Sean Payton, you got Jim Harbaugh, and you got Antonio Pierce, the young upstart of the group. Like, that is a really good, formidable group. And not to mention the quarterback play. Like, if the Denver Broncos go out here and they draft themselves a young, talented quarterback, because there's a lot of quarterbacks in this in this draft that's coming up, it's going to be very, very dangerous, man. And if the Raiders can actually get their quarterback issues straight, like that can be a really tough division. But all in all, the Saints have to play the AFC West, and that's going to be extremely tough for them. So a lot of these coaching shakeups are huge. I mean, you look at the Los Angeles Chargers, who got Jim Harbaugh as their head coach, and that's a good move. They actually saved Justin Herbert's career by making that selection. They saved this man's career by getting Jim Harbaugh. Because you can say whatever you want about Jim Harbaugh. Y'all know how I feel about Jim Harbaugh if you've been following what I'm saying. I would have fired DA last night if I knew that Jim Harbaugh would have been my head coach. This guy has a track record. This guy has a history of turning programs and organizations around on a collegiate level and on a professional level. There's not many coaches that you can say in the history of football that has done that. You can probably think about a handful of coaches that came from the college ranks, came to the NFL, and was able to leave their mark on both places. The only one I can kind of think of other than Jim Harbaugh is Jimmy Johnson. Can anybody else think of anybody else that came into that was a really good college football coach and they were a really good NFL coach? I guess you can put Pete Carroll in that too. Pete Carroll was a really good college coach at USC, and he's a really good coach for the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, Seattle, even though they may have down years, they barely ever missed the playoffs. They always had a formidable team under Pete Carroll. So that's like maybe, a handful of guys that I can really think of that were really good on a collegiate level and good on a professional level. So Jim Harbaugh is definitely going to help Justin Herbert reach his full potential. And I think that team is going to look really, really good. And they might be vying for, a deep playoff run if they play their cards right. And then you look at Tampa Bay, right? You look at Tampa Bay, they lose Dave Canales, so now they're looking for an offensive coordinator. And you think about Baker Mayfield. Like now Baker Mayfield, he's looking for a new offensive coordinator, right? He's looking for somebody that can actually reel him in. So Tampa has a job they need to do because we're going to find out, was this Baker Mayfield turning the corner or was he just a recipient of a really good coordinator? And we've seen over the course of time how offensive coordinators can leave and get head coaching jobs. And we see these quarterbacks take steps back because they no longer have them. Like even with Josh Allen, like when Brian Daboll was his quarterbacks coach, his offensive coordinator, he put up some of his best numbers. And then when Daboll went to the Giants, he kind of took a step back. So I know we like to, think that these coordinators don't play a huge role. It's like you're good. If you're good, you're good. But you need the right coordinator. And it's the same thing when it comes to Derek Carr, because you have to look at the way that the Saints are trying to move. It seems to me like they're just fully committed to trying to bring in somebody that can help Derek Carr. I don't know. Like I see people down in the chat, and I see people always having these thoughts and views about Derek Carr and, the organization was a train wreck and the Raiders didn't really give him a chance. But I'm like, if you're good, you're good. If you're talented, you're talented. You're going to be able to rise above the, certain situations. Like you might have some there's some great quarterbacks that had some terrible teams. Like Dan Marino. Dan Marino was one of the best quarterbacks of all time. I mean, he had a plethora of offensive weaponry around him. The Marx brothers, Mark Clayton and Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram's father, right? I mean, he had all these different talented guys that were around him. They was putting up like crazy points in the 80s. 5,000 yards in the 80s is insane, but they didn't have a defense. But no matter how many years Miami didn't have a defense, no matter how many years the Dolphins didn't make the playoffs, Dan Marino still was one of the best quarterbacks in all of football. When you're great or you're beyond that, you're going to rise above your situation. That is why I don't understand how people can fix their mouth and just say that all Derek Carr and his unlimited potential was not tapped because they didn't put the right things behind him. Like, you would actually see that. Think about this. For all my Saints fans out here, when the Saints drafted Marcus Colston, did anybody know who Marcus Colston was? When the Saints drafted, when the Saints went after Robert Meacham, like if you watched the SEC, you probably knew who he was. But for the most part, he wasn't like one of the best wide receivers and like he wasn't going to change the game. You knew Devery Henderson because of LSU ties, but I mean, Devery Henderson was just a freakishly fast guy, you know what I'm saying? With he couldn't even really catch that well. But when you put a quarterback like Drew Brees in a mix, he makes those guys look better. How many times have we seen undrafted guys just come into the Saints offense and still play a valuable role? Like they still play a valuable role in what they're actually doing. So to me, even though your team may stink, there's still going to be that one common denominator, and that is you rising above the situation. And when I see the same things that occur with the Saints as I did with the Raiders, you have to ask yourself, like, how many years of excuses can you give to somebody? So to me, I don't know, man. Like, I understand trying to find somebody that can actually kind of reel, Derek Carr in and get the best out of it, best out of your investment. I get all that. I completely understand that. But I don't understand trying to bring somebody in to commit like you're going to commit to this thing for another 4 to 5 years. I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't understand it, and I don't feel like the Saints need to do this. I really don't. I really don't feel like they need to just fully commit. I think the Saints need to embrace what's going on in the National Football League. It's okay to copy somebody else, like, somebody else's strategy if it actually works. It's okay. It's okay to do that, right? But of course, the Saints, I just feel like the Saints are like that person on the wall back in 2004, you know what I'm saying, with the arm folded, because, I don't dance, I don't dance. I'm posted up in the back, like, bro, you got to get in the game because it's going to pass you by. And arrogance, like, yeah, you can play the part, but eventually you're going to get exposed. So you can act like these things don't matter. You can act as if, you just doing your due diligence. And I'm honestly questioning that right now. Like, I'm serious. Like, I'm honestly questioning that right now. I know people are like, oh, man, the Saints are doing their due diligence. I don't know about that. I don't know if they're doing their due diligence or not. I don't know if they're doing their due diligence or just the fact that people are just kind of, just going through with the interview and not really wanting the opportunity. I don't know, like, because you have to really answer this question. Like, does anybody want to commit to Dennis Allen, knowing that Dennis Allen is on a hot seat coming into 2024? And even though if he's not on the hot seat, he should be, because if he's not, then Mickey Loomis has clearly lost it. So who wants to tie themselves to that? Knowing that there's a chance where you might be looking for a job again in 2025, or you could approach it in a completely different way, right? I have an opportunity to become a head coach if I do a good job. So somebody got to be brave enough to take advantage of this opportunity. I feel like, eventually they'll find somebody, but to me, I don't know. I'm kind of nervous because the longer this process goes on, the longer I feel like it's going to probably end up being somebody that they have to circle around for, kind of like on that P. Carmichael tip. Like, nobody else want to do it, so we're going to have to, go with the people that, I don't want to say reek of desperation, but somebody that for a fact is probably just chomping at the bit to get a job, like John Gruden. Let's see, TJ, do you think changing OCs can upset locker room morale? Yeah, it can. It can upset locker room morale, but it all depends on who you select. That is why you have to understand your team, Keen Arthur. You have to understand your team. You got to understand the personalities in there. You got to understand who are the strong personalities, the ones that influence the younger players, influence the locker room. First, you got to get them on board, right? Because by getting them on board, it's going to get the young bulls on board. So it's best for you to bring somebody in that can come in with that level of enthusiasm that all teams need. But you also need somebody that's going to come in that is not going to, mess up the chemistry. But that's why, you got to understand the type of team that you actually have. But yeah, it definitely can if you don't bring the right person in. Dave Canales, new Panthers organization coach. Yeah, we just mentioned that. We talked a little bit about Dave Canales. There was it shouts out to that boy Wolf on X, but he mentioned this. He was talking about how Dave Canales got his head coaching opportunity right out the gate, right? I mean, he goes and becomes the offensive coordinator of the Bucks, turns Baker Mayfield's career around, and then the next thing you know, he's the head coach of the Panthers. Byron Leftwich was responsible for, being the offensive coordinator that led the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to the Super Bowl back in 2020. So, why is it that he's out of football right now? I mean, honestly, I can't answer that question for you. I really can't. That just really doesn't make any sense. It's just like, why Chris Richard? As far as I know, he doesn't have a job. It's just weird stuff like that. I don't know, man. It's just funny to me that there is an issue here. There is an issue here that needs to be addressed. Why is it that you see so many, people of, a different complexion getting opportunities quickly than others? There's always exceptions to the rules, and of course, people are going to, bring those up, like Todd Bowles being a head coach of the Jets, and then an opportunity to be the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and there's Jim Caldwell, head coach of the Colts, ended up being a head coach of the Detroit Lions, but after that Detroit job, even though he was leading Detroit to the playoffs, Jim Caldwell never got a head coaching job ever again. So I'm just wondering to myself, like, you got to be careful with that. Like, does Byron Leftwich, does he deserve a head coaching job? I don't know. But I know for a fact that if you actually have two NFC South championships and a Super Bowl title under your watch, you deserve to have a job. I mean, you got Cliff Kingsbury out here like being the wonder kid. Everybody want him, and he ain't did jack. So I just don't know. But sometimes, when I don't know, I don't see too much of this coming from other coaches besides, brothers that look like me. But it just always seems like there's always an excuse to why they can't get opportunities. I'm just saying, like, it's always, it's the coach, right? That's what they did with Eric Bieniemy. That's what it seemed like they did when Bruce Arians was the coach and Byron Leftwich was the offensive coordinator, because Bruce Arians was an offensive-minded coach. So I don't know. I mean, you fill in the blanks. There's an issue, in my opinion. Is it an ongoing issue? Yes, it is. Are there exceptions to the rules that can validate people and have people smacking their lips as I'm saying this stuff because they can think about those two instances? Yes. But, maybe as time goes around and people start to bring more attention to this fact, maybe things will start to get a little bit better. I mean, you don't have to smack your lips about something or dismiss it. Maybe, like I said, by addressing certain situations, it can create that change that we're looking for. Hey, TJ, hope all is well. I'm afraid we would have another scenario where we end up just doing these interviews for aesthetics and choose someone in-house. Yeah, I mean, you're probably choosing somebody in-house because you didn't get the person that you want. I mean, that's just a fact. Like, interviewing Ronald Curry for the offensive coordinator job, and I mentioned this on social media, and what I said is not an indictment on Ronald Curry. It's not an indictment on him. I think Ronald Curry not only should be an offensive coordinator in the future, I feel like he should be a head coach in the future. Guy's a smart guy. I mean, I've followed Ronald Curry since he was playing basketball and football at the University of North Carolina. I remember him being a quarterback of the Raiders. Like, this guy, I've followed this guy's like football career, coaching career. So I'm very knowledgeable of Ronald Curry all around, right? I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that Ronald Curry, like, he had just a high, crazy GPA, like people used to talk about when he was at North Carolina. So this is a smart, brilliant guy, and I'm not saying what I'm saying as far as an indictment on him. I'm saying about him circling around to him. It just makes me think that they're having a hard time finding somebody to be the offensive coordinator of this team because nobody wants to be conjoined to Dennis Allen. And despite how if we want to address this or not, Y'all know how I roll. This is something that should be a question mark. If the Saints don't come out here with one of these hot shot offensive coordinators that's still out here, now we know Dan Pitcher is off the market now, Shane Waldron is off the market now, right? If you ain't coming out here with Zach Robinson, if you're not coming out here with, one of these other hot shot coordinators, Brian Greasy, Clint Kubiak, if you're not coming out with one of these guys, then, it's a failure. And by circling around Curry, it just basically tells me that, you couldn't get the guy that you wanted. And, that was a desperation move. Now, to Ronald Curry's defense, like if somebody gives you that opportunity, you take it and knock it out the park so you can achieve this potential that I've been alluding to for the last few minutes, which is getting a head coaching opportunity. But at the same time, like, he wasn't your first choice. So it's almost like he doing you a solid. At the same time, helping himself elevate his career. Trev, he said, I know, dog, we just got to be on the lookout. Ish can get ugly. Let's see. D.A. and Carr is not quarterback now and better coach now. It's just crazy to waste another year on those two. Well, I'm going to tell you this. If the Saints get the right offensive coordinator, Linda, and I know some people don't want to hear this, but look, I just try to be as honest as I can based on the information. Am I right all the time? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But I will say this. I feel like if the Saints get a really good coordinator in here and Dennis Allen is coaching the defense, the Saints can be a really good team in 2024. No, people don't want to hear this. I said this on a couple shows back, and somebody was like, man, stop lying. Bruh, Dennis Allen is not so terrible to a point where if you have somebody that's generating 30-plus points a game, calling a game like that on one side, we know that he can coach some defense. Like, that's his strong suit. That's what we always say. He's a really good coordinator. He's just not a good head coach. So if he can get that defense going and that offensive coordinator can really do a really good job, yeah, the Saints can win a lot of football games. That's not the issue, in my opinion. Number one, it's just like what I feel when it comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You had a guy like Dave Canales that was more like a quarterback wrangler, a quarterback whisperer, whispering in the ear Baker Mayfield, helping him see the field, making him feel comfortable, letting him live up to his potential. And then all of a sudden, he leaves. He gets another job with the Carolina Panthers. How is that going to affect Baker Mayfield? Is Baker Mayfield going to take that next step, or is he going to fall back down to earth because he no longer has the guy that understands him or is doing that due diligence? Now, you can ask yourself this question. Can they replicate what they did from Dave Canales? I don't know, because there are certain things that makes every coordinator special. So what I'm saying is, you get yourself an offensive coordinator. He can coach the heck out of some offense. The Saints are clicking. They gelling. Guess what? Everybody going to want some of that. Everybody going to want some of that. So guess what? It's going to be the same way with Todd Bowles. Dave Canales got his opportunity. The offensive coordinator of the Saints going to get his opportunity. And now you're back looking once again. But you can say in a positive way, because if they put up a lot of points and a lot of yards and the offense start clicking, it'll make somebody else, another coordinator, come in, make them want to chomp at the bit to be a part of that. So maybe it'll open up, maybe it'll open up something. My biggest issue with this is the opportunity for another offensive coordinator, if he does a good job, and Dennis Allen going up against elite coaching. Because you can win a lot of games, but we're talking about the ultimate goal. We're not talking about being good and winning games until you actually play somebody that's worth something and you get slapped around and they show you that you don't even deserve to be in the same stratosphere as them. That's my biggest issue. My biggest issue with Dennis Allen is not the fact that if the Saints get another coordinator, because if they get a really good coordinator, we know that they got the talent to win football games. That's what makes us upset. If the Saints didn't have the talent, Who Dat Nation, if the Saints didn't have the talent, sports fans, if they didn't have that, we wouldn't be sitting up here upset and frustrated about this team. If we knew the Saints had a bunch of bottom feeders, a bunch of jags, we'll be like, man, this just ain't it. Like, they're gonna have to get some more talent out here. But the most frustrating thing for us as fans is the fact that we know that this team has potential and they're not living up to it. We know that they got the talent, but when they get put in crucial and clutch situations, they got a coach that can't help them navigate through that. So regardless if the Saints, in my opinion, win 11 games, win 12 games, win 13 games, what have you, it's going to come down to a point where Dennis Allen is going to have to make a decision and have to call a really good game, and I question his ability to do that. So we have to ask ourselves the question here. What are we doing? Are we putting together a coaching staff to make Mickey Loomis feel right about Dennis Allen? Or are we putting a coaching staff together so the Saints can actually win something? Because if you're basically just trying to put something together to give us hope, like, stop wasting your time. Like, as Saints fans, we want championships. We want to be in contention consistently, not basically teasing us, with a couple wins and all of a sudden you just fall off the face of the earth. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't want that. Like, nobody wants to feel like that. It's about getting over the hump. So me personally, I feel like there's nothing, honestly, you can do to fix Dennis Allen. You're basically just propping him up, right? You know what I'm saying? It's like watching Maury Povich back in the late 90s, early 2000s. Y'all remember outside of paternity test episodes, they used to have those makeover episodes. Oh, my husband needs to learn how to dress. Oh, my wife needs to learn how to dress. And they just give them that full makeover. But that's just one time. You know what I'm saying? They hit the stage and everybody, but they go home, they ain't got them same wardrobe. You know what I'm saying? You're propping him up right now. So eventually he's going to have to stand on his own too. Question is, can he? And what has been proven, he can't. TJ, hope you feel, let me see, how you feel about the Chargers hurting John Harbaugh from Michigan. Hiring Sugar. Yeah, okay. What I think about the Chargers, I love it. Look, y'all know how I roll, man. Y'all know how I roll. Y'all know I love myself. Love me some Jim Harbaugh. I love me some Jim Harbaugh. Like, I told you, like, Jim Harbaugh would be my guy. And I look, man, if I was Mickey Loomis, if I was Mickey Loomis, man, they'll have an email. Jim Harbaugh have an email for me almost every day. When I seen that Jim Harbaugh was slow to commit to the University of Michigan, man, I would have been in this dude emails all day. Like, he would have said, like, Mickey Loomis, man, like, he would have seen that. Phone calls, something. Like, let's you know what I'm saying, let's talk in between, like, channels. Like, man, it wouldn't have been no Dennis Allen for me. As soon as I knew I had a chance to get Jim Harbaugh, Dennis Allen would have been gone. Just that simple. But as far as like him being high about the Chargers, I said at the beginning of this podcast, they saved Justin Herbert's career by hiring this guy. That's the way I feel about him. They saved Justin Herbert's career by hiring Jim Harbaugh. That's how I feel about him. Jim Harbaugh, I don't feel like, to me, Jim Harbaugh would have been a perfect coach for the New Orleans Saints, because he would have been able to win with the talent that you have now. And also, until you actually get yourself out of this cap purgatory that you're in, he'll make you formidable until then. He can win whatever you put on the field. He can win with it, because he has this ability to be able to motivate guys. And even if a guy is like mid-tier, by him being your coach, he feels like he's one of the best players in the league. We seen that. We seen that when he was coaching San Francisco. Some of them guys, man, they had no business being as good as they were. But it was because of what he instilled inside of them. And that's what you need, man. That's what the Saints need. You need somebody that you see has a reputation that can do more with less. So I love it. And we know that the Chargers don't have less. The Chargers got an embarrassment of riches. That's the reason why Brandon Staley on the street right now. When you got all that talent and you can't win with it. If the Chargers don't win 11 games next season, I'm shocked. I would be shocked if they don't win at least 11 games. Current Texas OC Bobby Slowick is meeting with the Falcons for a second time at Arthur Blank's house. Reports are they are very impressed with him. That's why I say Gerard Johnson gets promoted. If Gerard Johnson gets promoted, I'm not mad at it. Congratulations to that brother, because everything that I hear about him is all positive. And, I was listening to my guy Matt Moscona when he had Sean Salisbury on the show, and Sean Salisbury spoke very highly of him and talked about how smart he was as a quarterback, and a lot of things that we saw from C.J. Stroud was because of the tutelage of because of the understanding, the tutelage of Gerard Johnson. So the way I look at it, that's a plus for him. And Bobby Slowick, everything that I'm hearing about him is like he's a really good football mind. That might be a dangerous one right there, Dolph. That might be a real dangerous one for the New Orleans Saints, because this can be one of those situations where, this unheralded guy comes in and turns around a franchise. Because like the Atlanta Falcons are not, like them or not, we know that they're like a quarterback away from making some real noise. No, we don't like the Falcons around here. Saying anything positive about them is looked down upon on the State of the Saints podcast. But look, I'm not one of those people that just, I hate the Falcons, I don't care what they get. Nah, man, we gotta, you gotta know what the left hand gotta know what the right hand doing. And you also have to have a clear understanding of where you are and who do you need to hop over in order for you to get to where you need to be. And this team is talented, man. And we know Arthur Smith didn't really use that talent the way it should have been used. So, yeah, if they get a guy like, Slowick in here with his football mind, and if he can actually help, accompanied by a young quarterback, which we know more than likely they're going to get because they got a top 10 pick, they can be a dangerous football team. So if they get the right coach and right quarterback, man, that's another hurdle the Saints have to jump. I will wait till all the trash is gone. No gear, no ticks. Yeah, I mean, look, people have to take a stand. Like, I ain't advocating for any of that stuff. Like, I feel like, look, if you love your New Orleans Saints team and no matter what they do, you can't do no wrong. I don't get down with the Saints Stockholm syndrome. I don't. Some people just, maybe don't like my approach because maybe I'm not always waving a pom-pom of the team. So, but when they give me something positive to talk about, I'll talk about it. Right? I mean, that's just what it is. Like, I don't have, like, the best thing about not really having to, like, cover this team like most people do, I ain't got to look for the good news if there is none. Like, I don't have to do that. If they give you something positive to talk about, I'll say it. I will address it. Man, it was a good move right there. But right now, the morale is low because there's nothing on the New Orleans Saints as far as what their front office is concerned. There's nothing in their front office that gives you hope that this team is going in the right direction. You got a coach that's basically hiding behind the skirt of the GM who is on Mount Olympus because he knows he can't get fired. This guy can go into a press conference and chew gum, like Elsie the cow, and nobody says anything to him. But, like, he has this type of empowerment. And basically it just still feels like the Saints organization is at war with their fans. They're mad at the fans for expecting better. Like, that's the part that I don't understand. I love the Saints, but how can you get mad at the fans for wanting better? And you're not giving them better. And they're calling you out for you not giving them better. And you got a problem with it. Like, no, fix the issue. There's an issue. And no matter if you want to pretend and try to hide behind optics, there's an issue. And you got to fix it. And until you fix it, you're not going to have the confidence of the Who Dat Nation. And no, I don't feel like my allegiance and my love for the team is conjoined by the decisions that they make if I don't agree with them. If you do that, I'm sorry, you're a fool. I'm not going to just follow somebody just because I love them. I love my wife. But if I feel like she's wrong, I'm going to call out. And I hope that she does the same for me. That's just the way that it works. I'm not there's no need to sit up here and sugarcoat. People feel a certain way about this football team because this football team made them feel this way. I mean, that's just human nature. If people feel like you don't have their best interests at heart, they're not going to support you fully. That's with anything in life. That's not just going into a building that sits over 70,000 people. That's in life. If you're not getting support that you need, people are going to be looking for that support elsewhere. So, like I said, I'm not advocating for people to do, you do whatever you want. I don't think there's no right or wrong answer about it. I mean, I have my opinions, but you can't expect for people to show that same this undying loyalty to you if you're not showing it to them. A lot of disrespect, in my humble opinion, has been towards the Saints fans. Over like last year, I feel like there was a lot of disrespect towards the Saints fans. There's a lot of shut up and buy tickets type vibes going on. I don't like it. I'm sorry, I don't like it. Because the feelings that you all had and all that kind of stuff, people go into this Superdome and lose their voices on Sunday afternoons or Sunday night or Monday night or Saturday, whatever you play, right? They're loud, they're boisterous, they're trying to do their part. You got people out here that's making, decisions, and everybody ain't rich. Everybody ain't sitting in luxury suites. Somebody's sitting up in row 600 that's a season ticket holder, but they love this football team. And like I always say, the worst thing in the world is for you to love something with everything that you have and it don't love you back. So they got to show they love. Where's the love? If you show that love will come right back to you. Every action has a reaction, right? Right? Somebody hits you, you hit them back, right? Somebody love you and they show that love, you're going to have that love for them back. But at least you should. If they show you that undying love that you seek. Just my opinion. TJ, you think the Pelicans are slowly starting to take over New Orleans, especially if the Saints do bad this year again? Absolutely, positively not. No way. Caleb, first off, congratulations on you being more than likely going to be the first overall pick. And number two, I don't care what the Pelicans do. They will never jump in front of the New Orleans Saints. Like, the Pelicans would have to become the Lakers, the Celtics, like just winning championship at the championship. Like, they would have to do something like that. Like, they would have to win multiple championships for them to supersede the New Orleans Saints. Like, people love the Pelicans. They do. They got loyalty to the Pelicans. But it ain't on a level with the Saints. It's just not. The Pelicans would have to, they would have to win multiple champions. They'll have to be like the Celtics. Red Auerbach was running them. You know what I'm saying? They would have to be with Dr. Jerry Buss was running the Lakers. They would have to be on that level where they just got multiple championships for them to have actually supersede the Saints. That's what it would take. Not to say that people don't love the Pelicans, they do, but if the Pelicans playing on Sunday and the Saints playing on Sunday, and you had opportunity to go to a game, I don't think too many people would choose the Pelicans over the Saints unless you're just a diehard basketball fan. They acting like the people that get caught cheating and then get mad at the fact that they got caught cheating. Look, do better, and that's all we ask. Yeah, I mean, look, no need for you to continue to make excuses about why you did what you did. You still wrong. You still wrong, man. I don't know. The organization seems like they're upset with the fans. Even when the question was asked to Dennis Allen at his end of the year press conference, what message would you have for the fans that feel like quitting on the team? It's like he was almost taken back. Man, I don't owe these people nothing. That's kind of the vibe that I got from him. It was like he was taking the fans. What are we talking about here? Stuff like that. I never seen anything like that. I never seen a person that just don't really care. You know what I'm saying? About like even Sean Payton, right? Sean Payton will go to the press conference, and let's just say if it was a home game. Like, how many times have we seen like Sean Payton go to the podium and be like, well, I thought our fans did a really good job today. They were really loud. And if they're not really loud, he'd be like, they were loud, but I heard louder. But he's still like getting the fans involved, and he challenging the fans, right? You don't never really see that from Dennis Allen. When have you ever seen Dennis Allen challenge the fans? Never. You know what I'm saying? Like, never. And like I said, even when they asked him that question about the message that you have for the fans, he made it seem like, the fans, like, and then he gave some type of convoluted answer that was very half-hearted. Like, man, y'all know how I go. F me, F you. That's the way, that's the way fans feel. There was no heart, no passion in it. I know I ain't tripping. Go back and I can't remember exactly. It's like midway through his press conference. But it was basically just something that was just about as stale as some day-old chips. Like, nobody was believing or felt what he was talking about. It was almost in a way like, I don't owe these people anything. Yes, you do. Like, if you're going to be the head coach of the team, like, you have to give people a reason to get behind you. But this man, like, honestly, this guy's almost evolved. Like, now, I feel like the greatest cure for Dennis Allen would be winning. But he's starting to get on Anthony Davis status when it comes to like New Orleans fans. Like, he's starting to get on that level. Like, people do not like this dude. Like, and he's not like ingratiating himself into the Saints culture. As a matter of fact, like, he's killing it. And it's not like he's killing it to make it a culture that's better. Like, culture have like different levels to it, right? It's almost like your ancestry, right? Your ancestry, rather, you're Irish, you're Polish, you're African American, like you're Jewish. Like, there's levels and things to it, right? There's history that certain individuals were a part of, and then it evolved into another form of history, and then a better history, and then like, that's just how it goes. If he came in here with a different culture, but the culture was winning and it was a good vibe, people wouldn't care. But he is basically turning the Saints culture, a culture that gave so many Saints fans and players alike a level of confidence. How many trends and things that the Saints team have done that you see around the National Football League? How many vibes in the state of Louisiana has just radiated throughout the National Football League? Like the gritty, like posing in front of the camera when you get a defensive stop or a fumble or interception. Like, the Saints were like trendsetters with this. Michael Thomas coming out with the ski mask. Then all of a sudden people start coming out with underdog mask and coming out like all these different things. So it used to be a vibe. Now it's like, I don't know, man. It's like the nerdy guy coming in there with a pocket protector on and suspenders on, tripping all over himself. Like, you went from Stephon Urkel to Steve Urkel, Like, that's just the way that, like, there's no swag, like, no drip, no nothing. And we know, if anything, New Orleans has swag. Like, man, New Orleans has so much swag that a person from New Orleans, if they leave New Orleans, people are just fascinated and want to hear you talk. Just like, say baby, say gravy. They just want you to talk. So how can you go from a city with that much swag, be a coach of a city with that much swag, and walk up in here looking like Steve Urkel? And I don't even want to disrespect Steve Urkel. Steve Urkel still had the Urkel dance. You know what I'm saying? Everybody was doing the Urkel dance in the 90s. So I don't know. What's lower than Steve Urkel? Like, give me, I don't know. Can't even say Revenge of the Nerds because they got payback. I don't know. But whatever it is, it's not something that I could get down with. It's not something I could get down with. Let's see, 2024, 2025 Saints, Cowboys, and Dallas, first time ever. Thinking about not going, not finna spend my cheese on no DA and card foolishness. Well, I'll tell you what, Linda, that might be a good game to go to. It might be a good game to go to because I actually like Cowboy State. I don't know if I ever told you this, Linda, or anybody else, but I actually stayed in Dallas. Like right after I graduated from Jackson State, I went out to Dallas. And, I was working out there, going to school out there. So I like Dallas, man. I stayed in the Addison area, over there about Beltline Road. I love staying in Dallas. But I went to a Cowboy game one time. I went to a Cowboys and Rams game. I mean, I thought it was pretty cool. But I get what you're saying. But ain't nobody trying to see you go up in there and get slapped around. I can completely understand that. Let's see, the interception in the red zone celebration, the who that chant, etc. Man, we add seasoning to the league down here in NOLA, but Dennis don't even like salt. Yeah, I mean, bro, you can't, man. You got to put some salt on that chicken, man. You got to season that chicken up. I don't understand people like unseasoned chicken. I don't understand why. Where's the taste? But yeah, man, you got to put some seasoning on that chicken. Ron says facts. Jared said, y'all know me long enough to know that I love having fun, love to have fun with you all. Yeah, man, look, we all love to have fun. And Jerry is very underratedly funny. Like, I don't know if y'all know this or not, and I don't know if y'all following Jerry's YouTube channel, but please do. He definitely in his bag when it comes to like some of this comedic parodies that he's been putting out there. So y'all make sure y'all support Jerry and look at some of his shorts that he has out there. It's good stuff. I like it, Jerry. It's funny. It says Mickey Swagless arse acting like he owns the team. Ain't no getting behind this dude. Well, you got to make somebody believe in something. You got to make them believe in something. It's crazy because if you go back and you look at Dennis Allen being hired by the Saints, he goes to the Pelicans game and sits on the front row, and they give him like this, like heroic, like standing ovation, like. He was head of the Roman Empire, and he just completely like took down, the barbarians or something, or like he was just this great general who just took over and had this great crusade. Like, and now you go from that to, man, I can't even go to the store because somebody gonna boo my ass. Excuse my French, but it's just the truth. Like it's amazing. It's amazing, like how. How Jamie Foxx said, from sugar to ish, like how you just go from that, like unbelievable. Axe a Bum says, yo, TJ, I'm loving my time at the University of Iowa so far. This is where I'm supposed to be. I'm going to send some pictures. Well, that's great, Josh. Congratulations to you, man. Yeah, the University of Iowa, a beautiful place. Everybody I hear talk about the University of Iowa always talk about it in glowing light. So, yeah, man, you where you need to be. And good luck to you, man, as you try to continue your education. Let's see. TJ, how would you feel about Kellen Moore as our offensive coordinator? Wouldn't mind Kellen Moore as offensive coordinator, but at the same time, I like Kellen Moore, but I need more out of this guy. I need more out of this guy. Like, you had Dak Prescott, didn't really live up to his potential. Had Justin Herbert. To me, Justin Herbert didn't evolve. When I'm looking at coordinators, I look at, have they elevated the guy that they were responsible for? And when I look at Dak Prescott, threw a lot of interceptions, made a lot of mistakes when Kellen Moore was his offensive coordinator. You look at Justin Herbert is already good. Like, so you're going to get good play out of Justin Herbert regardless if whoever his coordinator is, because no matter who you put him with, you're going to see nuances of genius. I haven't seen that from Kellen Moore. I see a guy who can kind of keep a ship afloat. And Dolph, that's not what the Saints need. They don't need that. They just had that with P. Carmichael. They had P. Carmichael, yeah, he kind of kept it afloat. Right? I mean, there were some games where he looked like he was a mad genius. There were some games he just looked like straight hot garbage. That's Kellen Moore. I'm sorry, but that's just a fact. I get it. He checks all the boxes. Young, check. Former quarterback, check. Been around some really good quarterbacks, check. But my question is, who has he elevated? Who has Kellen Moore elevated as a player? Who has he elevated? I ain't seen it. I see Mike McCarthy took over play calling duties in Dallas, and Dak Prescott was on the MVP trajectory until he fell off in a playoff game versus the Green Bay Packers. So when I'm looking at coordinators, I'm asking a question: who did they elevate? Who did they make better? Like what consistent performances have I seen from your quarterback that you were responsible for? What make me believe that you can actually get the best out of the quarterback that we have that's kind of in the same boat? And when I think about Dak Prescott, I think about Derek Carr, kind of the same type guy, right? Can give you flashes of greatness, put up some decent numbers, ain't gonna win you nothing. So that's just the way I feel about it. Like, who has he elevated? Like, Dolph, I mean, I get what you're saying, but like, my question is, like, who has he elevated? And I look at quarterback coaches a little bit different. Even though Sean Salisbury, the way he broke it down makes me respect quarterback coaches even better and even more. And they may need to get a little bit more respect than, people give them credit for. But yeah, like who did he elevate? So it will be a no for me. My dad's side is from Louisiana and my mom is from Dallas. My whole family tree is like that. So Dallas Saints. Shepard, I mean, look, there's a lot of people that love the Dallas Cowboys that live in New Orleans. And, there's a lot of like people that stay in Texas that like the Saints. Because if you're going down I-20, right? I mean, we all know, you're going through Shreveport and all that kind of stuff. I mean, from Shreveport to Marshall, Texas or something like that, it's not that far. It's probably like 30, 40 minutes, right? So you would think like from there, and probably a little bit further back, maybe 100 miles, they probably relate more to New Orleans Saints. And then, like I said, you got a lot of New Orleans Saints fans that like the Dallas Cowboys because during the 90s, rest in peace to a good friend of mine, Brian Jackson. He grew up in New Orleans his whole life and hated the Saints, but he loved the Cowboys. It was because of the 70s where he grew up and they were winning and the Saints weren't. So you have a lot of, man, it used to, like, people don't want to admit this, man, but some people my age, I'm 37. Some of you, like, what I'm saying, I'll give you 35 and on up. Y'all know that it was kind of like, you got kind of, talked about in rib when you come through with some Saints stuff on. Like, you had to be a diehard Saints fan in the 90s to rock a Saints starter jacket, to rock a Saints hat. Like the 49ers, the Cowboys, and the Packers were hot. And that's what people kind of gravitated to. So I don't know. So I think that it depends on the area. Like Texas is not that far from Louisiana state line. So you might have people in Texas that are Saints fans. I hate the Cowgirls, but that game was fixed. I don't know if it was fixed or not. It had to. I will hope that it was fixed because I will hope that Dak Prescott can play better than that. With a new OC, do you think Taysom will be utilized at quarterback more or less, especially in the red zone? I think he can. I think he can be utilized more in the red zone. I think they'll find more ways to actually use him. I wouldn't be against him being used like how the 49ers used Deebo Samuel. I mean, Taysom kind of fits that skill set. And if you notice, I noticed this season, Taysom Hill has become much better as a pass catcher. Like there were a couple catches that I seen him make. I'm like, 2 years ago, he wouldn't have made that catch. There was one catch like on the right sidelines that he caught. I'm like, ain't no way in the world in 2022 or 2021 Taysom would have caught that pass. So, I mean, there's some ways that you can actually use them. There's some ways that you can actually use them, man. So, I imagine the Saints are waiting for Final Four teams to finish so they can interview one of those coaches, says my older brother, Emmanuel. Shouts out to EJ, man. Yeah, I think so. Maybe that's what they're doing. I mean, I don't have an issue with that because I mean, you're getting the best. I mean, if they're in the Final Four, they definitely are doing their due diligence, and they're definitely doing a great job. So I don't have an issue with that. But I don't know, I don't know because a lot of guys that's in playoff contention. I mean, they still getting Zoom phone calls, right? The teams are still reaching out to him. Like Ben Johnson, despite the fact that he has to call one of the most important games in Detroit Lion history, still made time to do a virtual interview with another team. So, I don't know. Like I don't think that should just be, be an issue. Or maybe it's just the fact that those coordinators were like, we'll call you back, and they ain't in no hurry to do so. TJ, you heard about the Saints considering talking to Arthur Smith. No, I did not hear about that. I didn't hear about that at all. I heard that there are other teams that were interested. I didn't know if the Saints were or not. But, I don't like it. I really don't like it at all. I mean, maybe that's the reason why Dennis Allen was so adamant on defending Arthur Smith, because he didn't want to hurt his feelings, because maybe you want to hire him, right? So that's why he wanted to have a little, powwow circle and sing "We Are the World" or "Kumbaya" with the guitar or the ukulele or whatever the heck they be playing around the campfire. I don't know. All I know is that was weak. Arthur Smith getting mad that the Saints did that was weak. And I don't need two weak individuals on the football team. We already had that in Pete Carmichael and Dennis Allen. Now, I'm just saying the approach to the game. I ain't talking about them personally. But their approach to the game was weak. And because we got a lot of literature that's out there that's validating a lot of weak behavior down there in New Orleans. Let's see, Georgetown and Miami. Let's see, if we bring in Chip Kelly, I probably wouldn't be so worried. I'm good on Chip Kelly. I'm good on these old farts, these yesteryear heroes that, I get it. These guys, they have a reputation, and I understand that. I'm not knocking it. But it just wouldn't be my choice. I want the Saints to do something new. I want them to do something unconventional. I want them to do something that I have seen works and not just keep on digging in the crates. Like these older guys, like they still can do their job, but man, you talking about 3, 4, sometimes even 5 generations of offensive efficiency. I mean, like innovation, that is, offensive innovations that they have been a part of. Like I want to see somebody young. I say that because, man, we all know. I don't know how many people out there, but they got some individuals out there that they may have a young boss, right? When you have like a young boss, you probably get a little close to them, right? Because they cool. Or, you know what I'm saying? They talking about stuff that's relatable. If they having a meeting, they talking about their life, and it's kind of like, man, I was out here doing this and that. And you can kind of relate to that if you're around that age group. But I feel like when you're like around 50 and 60, what does a 50 or 60-year-old man have in common with a 20, 21-year-old kid? Here's somebody that's 20, 21 years old, probably came from poverty, never had anything at all. They go from that, probably having $150 in their bank account, to $150 million in their bank account. And you know what I'm saying? Like they got to navigate through the world. And you think about guys like Gerard Johnson and Zach Robinson, guys who have been quarterbacks, who have played on a professional level, who can kind of understand and relate about navigating through those uncharted waters as a young quarterback or as a young football player. Like those, like guys can relate to that. It's kind of hard to talk about the foxhole if you've never been in it. Like, I feel like the wave of the NFL is finding young, innovative coaches that young players can relate to. And I feel like that's the direction the Saints need to go in. And as long as they try to prolong this process, the further they're going to get deep into this hole. And yeah, they'll probably find somebody, that's older. But I feel like with the older guard, it's probably somebody that, in desperate need of a job versus somebody that's actually wanted. I would want somebody for the New Orleans Saints that want to be here. They chose to be here versus somebody that felt like they needed me. Because we all know when somebody feels like they're needed, they act completely different than somebody that that's looking at it like a civic duty to turn this thing around. Oh, they called me. They need me. Nah, bro. Look at it as a opportunity, not just look at it like, well, they need me, so I'm gonna show them what I can do. Mickey Loomis chewing gum in the last press conference was straight up disrespectful. And if the Saints traded Marshawn Lattimore, it would be one, if not the biggest mistake in franchise history. Look, I like Marshawn Lattimore a lot. I don't feel like he needs to be traded. That would just be another feather in the hat of ineptitude of this football team. I mean, I can give you the list. Getting rid of Trey Hendrickson when this guy's second in the league in sacks. Like just ridiculous stuff like this, going after guys from unnamed colleges, trying to be the smartest people in the room instead of, going with the obvious guy that can make plays. Like it just adds on, but I don't know if they're going to get rid of Lattimore. But if they get rid of Lattimore, it's probably going to be because they want to help their precious little DA, because I guess they have like a little friction going on between the two of them. So we got a back DA. We don't need any cancers in the locker room to talk about DA, to make people feel like DA is incompetent. Even doing a good job of himself, nobody needs to say anything at all. So we got to protect our precious DA. We got to protect our precious Derek, right? I mean, so that's what the New Orleans Saints are going to do. Like, don't be surprised. Like, you're going to see some players that probably going to end up getting traded or going to end up being released because they probably aren't buying into Dennis Allen. So the New Orleans Saints got to, basically use the neuralizer like they did on Men in Black in order to wipe everybody's mind away from actually knowing that Dennis Allen isn't, the right guy for the job. But you can't neuralize me. Totally agree, TJ. Not re-signing Marcus Williams hurt. Yep, in my opinion, it did. Why no new OC yet? Yeah, I mean, maybe they're doing their due diligence, or maybe they just having a hard time finding somebody. I don't know. Maybe they are doing their due diligence. I would hope that they're doing their due diligence. But if they turn around and hire somebody that's already in the building, we got our answer. We got our answer because we all know that this offense needs a culture change. So if you're going to maintain the same culture by keeping the hire in-house, pretty much tells me everything I need to know. Like, you can't gaslight me. And I'm not going to gaslight anybody. I'm not going to, this is such a great idea. Like, nah, you got to prove it to me. They definitely got a bullseye on Lattimore. Let's see, Panthers head coach signing was nice for them. Yeah, I agree with that. That was a really good signing. We losing good applicants fast. Yeah, I mean, look, but at the same time, I can completely understand, like, some of the guys, not committing to the Saints. I mean, you think about Shane Waldron going to the Bears. Like, you got an opportunity to coach Justin Fields or Caleb Williams. You think about Dan Pitcher. I mean, family that you already have in Cincinnati. You get to move up, be with an organization you've been with since 2016, be with a quarterback that trusts you and you trust him. Like, I can understand, like, some of these decisions. I can understand if Brian Greasy, decide to stay there. I can understand if, some of these other coordinators don't want to move. I can understand if Gerard Johnson gets the OC job because Bobby Slowick goes to the Atlanta Falcons. Like, you got to think about this, man. Like, if you can get a promotion from a job that you already have, everybody there, they're going to give you some extra money. You ain't got to think about telling your wife or your husband, like, we got to move. No, like, you going to stay there. You get more money, and like I said, you ain't got to uproot your kids. Now, you got to think about this, man. You got to think about these guys have families. So it's not as complex as we making it out to be. I can understand it from a certain standpoint, but what I don't understand is if a guy leaves an organization and goes somewhere else opposite of the New Orleans Saints, that's kind of telling to me, right? You know what I'm saying? Unless it's like offensive coordinator a quarterback coach, you end up being a head coach or something like that, or something of that nature, or if a guy like gets a promotion, I can understand that. But if I'm interviewing guys and then all of a sudden the news come around that the guy that you hired goes somewhere else. That's telling. That's telling. I'm gonna read a few more and then we're gonna go ahead and get up out of here. It says, I think the players we have on the team now fits the 49ers, get the ball out of Carr's hands and draw up some fire run plays. I think you need another running back with that. And I don't know. I got to see more out of Jamal Williams, but I think that his production will improve with better offensive line play and using your offensive line in a different way. So I guess you have 4, but I hate to say this, but I feel like the Saints may need to get another running back. I feel like they need to get another running back. I don't know. Jamal Williams is more like that sledgehammer, not going to really make too many people miss. Probably looking for the contact more so. I'm not. You already know how I feel about Alvin Kamara, but I also have to be. You also have to be willing to, think about the fact that the Saints could possibly use AK as trade leverage to go somewhere. So I would say, like, if that's the case, they'll need to get another running back. Because if for example, because if they were to move on from AK, like let's just say they traded Alvin Kamara, like I would think that Kendre Miller, if pending, he stays healthy, would be, like your number one running back. Like he showed like when he's healthy, he's pretty good. But I also think that you need somebody else. So that's the way I'm looking at it. But if you don't move on from Alvin Kamara, I think you should be straight because you can use Taysom more as like that Deebo Samuel role. You got your sledgehammer, and you got your running backs that can kind of wear down the defense. So, but if they decide to like make a trade or something like that, then I say get another guy. Fans need to hit the streets with signs and have the news out there. I don't think that do too much. I don't think they're gonna do too much because there have been news stories about fans being frustrated, but it don't seem like they care. And also at the same time, you have to understand like these front office folks, they live in an echo chamber. Like how many Saints personnel guys, coaches, like you see on social media? You don't see them. Like I don't know if y'all ever seen this movie, Head of State with Chris Rock. And Chris Rock he played the role of a guy named Mays Gilliam, and he was running for president. And the guy that he was actually running against, he was reading a newspaper and he found out the guy that he was originally running against, died. And he looked at the paper. He was like, "Who is Mays Gilliam?" He was like, "The guy that you're running against." He was like, "When did this happen?" He was like, "On the news." He was like, "Not my news." Like the Saints don't really look at the news like we be thinking, man. They don't be caring about what we saying. Like they live in this echo chamber. It's not their news. Like they'll probably hear it from other people or something like that, but they don't be paying attention to what we talking about. Like they live in that echo chamber. That's the reason why they don't care. Like that's why they make these decisions. I didn't know AK was 28 time flying. Yeah, I know, right? I remember when he first got in the league, ran that gold grill. Hey, TJ, why didn't Byron Leftwich have a job yet? Your guess is as good as mine. Thanks for reading it. Yeah, man, no problem, man. Says need Jared Verse of Florida State edge rusher. I wouldn't mind that, Ramsey. That would be my top pick if they go defense. I still feel like they're gonna get offensive line. I mean, to me, I would be shocked. Like I would be floored. I would be absolutely floored if they get a quarterback in the first round. I would be floored if they get a quarterback in the first round. I would be absolutely shocked. Like shocked if they do that. Like, man, that would be the talk because this is something the Saints haven't done since Archie Manning drafting a quarterback in the first round. So that definitely would be shocking. But I don't see that happening because you got to protect DA and you got to protect Derek at all costs. You got to protect their feelings. They're very fragile men. But thank you all so much for checking out the State of the Saints podcast. I really do appreciate it. And the Gumbo Pot Sports podcast. We'll be back on the Gumbo Pot this weekend talking about the championship weekend, the NFC and AFC championship. We'll find out who is going to represent each conference in the Super Bowl. We'll be breaking that down. We'll be talking a little bit more about some of the head coaching hirings and also just some of the things going on in the NFL draft. I'm telling y'all want to subscribe to the channel because it gives us more access to be able to talk to some of very well-known personalities, and get their perspective on different teams around the NFL. And it's something that, I enjoy doing. Like, I love the Saints, but I love sports as well. And I think you all do too. Like, the Saints playing, I see a lot of people on social media when the Saints aren't playing. I see them commenting on different games. So if you're into sports, you love football, you love, talking sports, then, it's kind of the same format, but we're just talking about different topics. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, youtube.com, search Gumbo Pod Sports Podcast. Subscribe to the channel if you have not already. I encourage everybody to check out the interview that I did with Matt Moscona of After Further Review. That's on the YouTube channel. Good, entertaining stuff right there. Y'all know how Matt rolls, extremely honest, extremely charismatic, and I enjoyed doing that interview. So make sure you check that out. You can follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at TJAYJones8. Much love to each and every one of you. Till next time, all I got to say is, who dat? Peace out, sports fans. I'll see you down the road.